Okay, so now it's time to do a CMA. The easiest way to do a CMA, the easiest home to do a CMA for is generally one in a neighborhood. This gives you some good similar houses to which you can compare your subject house. So that's going to make it the easiest. So let's say you're given a property. Somebody's called you and says, I want you to list my house. And so they give you the property address and you want to get some numbers together before you head over there, take a look at the house, make a final judgment on things. So what I would do is I would start with just looking up the address to see if it's been sold in our MLS in recent years. Because if it has, you can find the listing. You can be more specific about the neighborhood that it's in, and if it's something like Lake Carolina or Saluda River Club, you might need to even be more specific and talk about a specific neighborhood, within the community. So because that matters as well. When you get into those further divisions, you want to be in the tightest division that you can be in so that you have the properties that are most likely to be similar. Okay, so let's take this property for instance. We've got this address and I note, okay, it's in the Wellesley subdivision. So where I'm going to go from here, I'm not going to the CMA tab. It is something you can do certainly, and feel free to play with it. There's also, I believe, a training video within MLS, and you know that you can go to the training videos at the help tab up here. But the CMA gets a little more involved, and when I'm looking to do something quick and get a basic number and have some basic things that I can use to back up a number, I do this other method instead. If you want a more formal process with perhaps some pictures and extra information, then check out the CMA. It'll give you a little more thorough presentation for you to have. But if you're just looking for a number, trying to get an idea, this is really about as easy as you can go. So go to the search. Obviously, it's a residential property. Okay, the first thing I do is I type in the neighborhood name in the subdivision. Okay, then I'm going to go to see all active and all closed, and especially if it's a busier neighborhood or a larger neighborhood, go ahead and do the pending too. Okay, notice that along the way, your search is coming up with a number there. Well, that number is not reflective of what you're looking for. This neighborhood that I'm searching is a particularly busy neighborhood, so I'm going to start with 6 months and see if that gives me a good enough number. If not, if I don't feel the number is large enough, if there are a large enough number of options here, then I'll go to 12 months. But let's see what we get. Yeah, 28 is probably going to do it. And I'm not even limiting the size of the property or anything just yet. I just want to see what's out there in this neighborhood. Okay, so as we can see, we've got a number of listings. You can see the status right here, closed, 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 pending. So a lot of closed, so this is good. It gives us a lot of data. A couple of active properties. Okay, not a whole lot active in the neighborhood right now. What that tells us is that's our competition. Okay, so whatever they're listed for doesn't mean that that is what you should list it for. It means that that's what they believe you should list it for. And if you want to try to sell that house and be competitive, maybe you shoot for something just under the value that they're headed for. Okay, so really a good place to start. I like to take this box over here, these check boxes. I want to click the top one, and I want to make sure they're all checked, because at this point, we're going to include them all in our CMA. If we ever need to delete one of them, then we can simply uncheck that box and then click this checked box up here, because what you do when you're clicking that checked box is keeping everything that has a check mark in front of it. So I like to assume we're using them all and eliminating one or two maybe. It's a lot easier than deciding later on to go ahead and check all the ones we want to use. It's very easy to get confused that way. So now that we've got everything checked, let's go over to the reports so we can really start working here. Go to the reports, you hit the CMA, and then the summary is what we want. What this does is it breaks things up into the active, the closed, and the pending. So, as you can see, there are two houses that are active. They are of similar size, and they are similar in price point. Okay. One's been on the market for 34 days. One's been on the market for 22 days. So the question is, what kind of traffic are they getting? This is the kind of thing where you might take your seller as part of this process, and you might say, let's go on a tour of the houses that are currently your competition, and let's figure out where you stand in this process. Do you have the most updated house? It's the cleanest, it's ready to go? Or does your house need a little bit of updating that perhaps you're not going to do? Maybe we need to allow for that and understand that a buyer is going to see these as well. Why should they pick your house? Maybe we need to work on the price, that sort of thing. So these are conversations that need to be had. But moving on to the closed properties, this is where you're going to get actual data. This is what's been happening actually with sales. Doesn't matter what you listed for, it's what you sell it for. So where are we in the sales? Okay, so right away you can go to the bottom and you can see an average number. So $90 a square foot over the last 6 months is the average for the neighborhood, sort of. So let's look again at what we're talking about here. We go back to the subject property, 325 Ashmore, 1,950 square feet. Okay, this is going to make our job a little bit easier. So there's a house right here, exactly the same square footage. This is very similar. So these houses are similar in nature to the subject property. So if you go down and look at the closed properties, you can see that, okay, 1,400 is really small. That's a very small property, and actually that doesn't feel like as much of a comp, and I'll tell you why in a minute. You got 2,000, 19, 19, 19, another 1950, 2,100. These are all still very similar, very similar, very similar. 19. Okay, we hit 22. We're starting to get a little bigger. Now we hit 24, 26, 33. Okay, these are all a lot bigger. Let's note what happened with the bigger houses. Okay, 3,900, 3,000, and their price per square foot is in the 60s and 70s. Okay, that's very low. So let's look at why. There are a couple of reasons why. So let's look at what might be the case. So 69, that's really low. And what I like to do whenever I see something in the 50s or 60s or something that really doesn't fit with what the rest of the neighborhood is doing, let's check it out to make sure it's not a foreclosure. So I'm clicking on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm scrolling down specifically. Okay, so I don't see anything that indicates it's a foreclosure in the agent remarks. Let's double check. Property disclosure, yes. Well, there you go. Not a foreclosure. And it is a relo company, however. Okay. You know what? Let's take that one out for two reasons. So one of them has to do with the relo company. Okay. So we're going to take that out. Let's look at this one up here at $70 a square foot. Because again, it's a bigger house, 3,300 square feet. Let's see if that happens to be a foreclosure. And the reason I'm looking is because foreclosures do not count in the comps. So you want to make sure that you've removed any foreclosures that might be dragging those numbers down. Okay, it's being sold as is. Let's see. There is a property disclosure, however, and there appears to be a single owner. So this just happens to be, I guess we're going to call it a fire sale. That being said, let's talk about something that does tend to happen, and that's where it's important that you understand the neighborhood. In general, a smaller house is going to be able to command a little bit more per square foot. The major expense in building a house is really in the first floor, essentially the first element of that structure. As you start to add stories, it's not nearly as difficult, and therefore the space ends up becoming a little bit less valuable and less valuable as you go along. So if you notice, we kind of see that here in this list. Now look at the smallest house in the neighborhood, $111 a square foot, really. But then you go to the next, half dozen or so, and they're all within kind of the same 200 square foot range, and they're in the 80s and 90s. Okay, nothing wrong with that. That got a really good price, 102 a square foot. That was a good get. 107 a square foot. That's a really good get. Okay, but then notice what happens when you hit, say, 2,500. Now that went to 84, so the high 80s and 90s are now starting to go a little bit lower, and then as you get to the bigger houses, it definitely lowered. And they weren't on the market for long. It's not like they were sitting and had to be reduced. That's what they were selling for. So something to consider, and that's why for this particular comp, I'm going to eliminate the bigger houses. I'm gonna call it at 2,500 square feet. So therefore, I'm going to get rid of this 2,600 square foot, and I'm going to leave the 2,400 square foot. Okay, and I also got rid of the excessively high. We don't want to give our sellers false hope either. So you need to get rid of anomalies on either side of the scale. You have to understand that, whether it's because of the small house or whether the house, has gold fixtures or something in it. You need to understand what's going on with these houses. And if one house has sold for an unreasonably high dollar amount, you can't let your seller think that, well, you might be able to get that too, unless they have the same type of amenities. So right here, we've unchecked some things. Let's go ahead and do that checked. Okay. So now that we have eliminated some of the comps, as you can see, we're going to go back down to the closed, and we're going to go to the average price per square foot, eliminating the larger houses, and that excessively high small house has brought the comps to 93 a square foot on average. Okay, all right, that seems reasonable on the face of it. So let's see how it goes, because most of these houses have sold pretty quickly too. If you notice, there's one that sold 56 and 110, but everything else, it seems to be selling within a month or just out. These are priced higher, so we'll have to see where they go as far as sales go. Okay, pending. The same thing can be done for that. So the only thing with the pending is what this tells you is that houses are still selling. Okay, there are five sales that are going to be closing here very soon, and this lets your buyer feel confident, or your seller feel confident, that buyers will be coming. This doesn't tell us anything about how to price this house. It doesn't matter what they were listed for. We need to know what the sale price is, and we won't know that until it closes. Okay, so basically, you then start to do your math, right? So if you were just going to do quick and easy, let's just look at this on the face of things at $93 a square foot times 1950. So you get 181,000 and change. Okay, so that might be a good place to start. Look at the 1,950 square foot house. It's exactly the same square footage. It's likely the same floor plan, very similar. They're listing it for $15,000 more. Well, you have right there an opportunity. Okay, how quickly do you want this house sold? Let's try to get in under that, and I think your seller will feel more confident doing this sort of thing. Again, if you go see these houses, just see what it is that you're up against. So it's a matter of knowing your competition and then understanding what a buyer will be looking for. Is yours really ready to go? I mean, then price it just slightly under that, and your buyer will say, great, I don't have to do anything. But if it needs a little bit of work, then have your buyer willing to go ahead and put it a little more under and really tempt those buyers with a house that they're going to get for less and they may have to put a little bit of money into. So be ready to have these conversations. But this is basically how you do it. The only other thing I would suggest is that if you want to go in here and take a look at some of these other ones on a more specific basis, absolutely do that. The more knowledgeable that you appear about these houses to your seller, the better. You also want to know where they're located potentially within the neighborhood, do a little research, figure out all the details. Are some of them brick and some of them not? These are the types of things that, that will be good for you to be able to point out. So that is the basis of doing a CMA with a neighborhood. If for some reason there is no neighborhood, these things happen too. What I might do is, and we're going to pretend that this particular listing is not in a neighborhood right now. I just want to show you something. You can go to the map. I know there's a way to do a radius search. It's certainly something that you could do, but I don't feel like I trust a radius search, because what neighborhoods are near each other or what types of homes are near each other? It really depends on your area. You could have a wide variety of homes. You could have a neighborhood that is adjacent to a bunch of houses that aren't in neighborhoods, but this neighborhood is $1 million neighborhood adjacent to this land that other people have built individual homes on. It's just not comparable, and I don't think that a radius search will get you necessarily the right type of information. So let's say this is some sort of a downtown area. There's no neighborhood. It's just a bunch of streets. What I would do is I would say, okay, where's the street? Now let me find other streets that are nearby. And I would write down the streets that are closest to this that will most likely have the most similar houses. Okay, and maybe you need to take a drive around here, but generally, if you have a bunch of streets that are just going along here and, in your basic checkerboard pattern, most of these houses will be of a similar nature. So take 4, 5, 6 streets and then do a search in the residential tab of streets. So do a new search, and you can go to the multiple address. I'm sorry, not multiple. Yes. So you could do the street name. Okay. You could do, okay. Okay, let's do that. We'll save that. I'm going to get the neighborhood name out of here. Okay. So now what you have is, and I've still left it at the 6 months. So we have 13 for the number. And so as you can see, we're still coming up with houses. So reports, I'm going to go back to CMA, the CMA summary. Let's see what we have here. I still see the little house, so we will want to get rid of that. So we've got that little house that doesn't really seem to fit, and we've got a really big house, so we'll get rid of that. But then everything else is very similar. Look at that. Just from doing those particular streets, you've got a very similar makeup of houses. So now, if we're going to do it that way, now we're back to 90 a square foot. Okay, so maybe you break it down even tighter. Okay, so you have to really know the neighborhood, know the area. How big is that neighborhood? I have to say there are neighborhoods where you've got newer sections and older sections, and maybe the newer sections have changed the dimensions a little bit of the houses, or maybe they include bigger lots. You need to know the difference there, and not include some of that stuff. Even if it all is under one name, as opposed to Lake Carolina that has like 10 different neighborhoods under it. You need to be able to differentiate there. So these would be 2 different CMAs I might present to the seller and say, okay, on one hand, we might be able to get this amount for it, but I need you to understand that closer, really close to your house, this is what the houses are going for. We might need to be willing to do this. Okay, so these are the conversations that you have with your seller. So hopefully this helps. You know, you can print these reports. So you can print the report. There's the CMA summary. You can also email it to yourself or to your client. I would suggest, honestly, what I always do is I always email it to myself. That way I am coming from my personal email. I'm coming from my email that I usually use, as opposed to emailing it from MLS. I attach this report, and then I have the ability to discuss it and put my thoughts in there in this report. When you email it through here, you can do the same thing, but it comes through MLS. I feel like I want to use my email to do it. So you can do it either way. It definitely works. But this is the way that you're going to arrive at these basic numbers. Hopefully this helps.